Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from all around the world. It's very nice to see you all and very excited to discuss this exciting topic on unlocking value through digitalization. Of course, we'll be focusing a bit more on the idea of X as a service business models, or energy as a service, cooling as a service, and all kinds of as a service models with this idea in mind. So before I introduce myself, I think I would like to introduce all of our speakers, the more important people in this room, of course. To start with, we have Ricardo. So Ricardo is the Business Development Senior Manager at Daikin, and he has the responsibility of the Open Innovation Program in Latin America, and also the expansion of the as a service and cooling as a service models in this region. He has several years of experience in this industry and very specific expertise in mergers and acquisitions as well, which he'll tell us a bit more about in the open innovation area that he's working with. As we all probably know, Daikin is the world's industry leader in air and air conditioning, and has more than $15 billion of revenue, annual revenue, comprising of several companies over the entire world. And we look forward to listening more from Ricardo about the cooling as a service journey and how Daikin has benefited from that. Secondly, we have Christian. Christian Copeland is the sales director at HCL Technologies, and he has a vast array of experience in the software as a service industry, in addition to many other software businesses that he has worked with, especially with his HCL history with Oracle and in Verint as well. I think many of you might know HCL is one of the world's largest global IT services and consulting businesses, originally from India. But I think Christian will be representing a business division called HCL Software. And he'll tell us a bit more about how these softwares can support businesses in improving their as a service solutions, whether they are in energy as a service, cooling as a service, or anything as a service. And also talking about the field service transformation that is required, something that can really make or break such a business model. We also have Omar from Brainbox AI. Omar is the Chief Product Officer and has the responsibility of product management function within Brainbox AI, and very importantly is also a patent holder and has a lot of experience in the building automation industry, and has also led his own business in this area. So very interested to hear from Omar. He also has experience of working with General Electric, where he has led some very important sales to digital solution sales to Fortune 200 companies. So we'll hear a bit more on how Brainbox can help building management systems and help them conduct their operations in a more efficient and energy efficient manner. And finally, we'll also have Arthur. Arthur is the new energy business model analyst at LCP Delta, and he works at the Paris office, where he's enjoying the sun at the moment. So the team works with energy majors, manufacturers, innovators, and policymakers across Europe, who are looking to capitalize on the energy transition. And he has conducted extensive research on innovative concepts such as energy as a service and smart tariffs and green finance and so on. So we would get some interesting research insights from him when we come to the Q&A. That said, I would like to introduce myself as well. My name is Parikshit Naik. I am the Business Development Manager at the Advanced Services Group Limited. I have a PhD in the role of Internet of Things and digital technology in enabling this thing called X as a service, or what we call servitization as well. And I mentioned the Advanced Services Group. We are based in Birmingham in UK, but we operate globally. We are an advisory firm that provides strategic advice to businesses that are looking to transform themselves from a product-led organization to becoming more of a service-led business. And we help businesses create business models revenue models, contract models, understand this process of servitization at a more strategic level, and what are the first steps they should be taking in this journey. Our entire strength is around looking at generating intellectual property, frameworks, tools, and techniques on the topic of servitization. Using that intellectual property, I'll set some basic understanding for everybody on this webinar on these two very complicated terms we are throwing around. One is called servitization, and one is called the X as a service or something as a service business model. So what do we really mean by that? How we have seen servitization as a research topic originated in 1988 or so. It has evolved over time, and the understanding has matured. How we now understand it is that it is a transformation process that enables new service offerings, that requires a new business model, and can help you succeed through a service-led business strategy. Essentially, you'll see at the bottom of the slide, it is a transformation process through which we say manufacturing companies, but it is very much product-led businesses, any product-led business that changes its business model from competing through the sale of just products to becoming more of a provider of combination of products and services, an increasingly complex combination of products and services. And this combination of products and services creates a new business model. And what does this business model look like? We see that as a combination of 4 quadrants, let's call it. Let's say the top left is what we call as the customer value proposition. And this is where you design a new service, or how do you create value, if you ask yourself. Secondly, then you must think, well, now I've created a service, how do I deliver this service? So the top right-hand side is about the resources and competencies and capabilities you require to deliver this service. Thirdly, now you have created, you have delivered the value. Now, how do you capture that value back to yourself? So the revenue models, how do you earn money from it? This is where you design new revenue models and also look at the different forms of value you can capture, not just monetary value, but also data, information, relationships, strategic value. And that is the third one. And finally, how do you protect this value? How do you gain a competitive advantage based on some of your own characteristics as a product-led business that can make sure nobody else can copy this, or it is something very difficult to replicate in the business? And as a combination of these 4 quadrants, a business model can be understood. You can apply this to your existing business, any business right now, and think about it, what these 4 quadrants are. How do you create, deliver, capture, and protect value? Now, when it comes to digitalization and the value of digital, we see that very much sitting in the top right-hand side. That's how research has expressed it, that digital technology is a very strong and essential enabler of this process called servitization, of creating X as a service business models or anything as a service business models. However, from today's speakers, what I'm looking to understand, and I'm sure we'll get deeper into it, is how does digital technology play a role in all of these boxes? How does it help you design a better service? How does it help you capture more revenue or better revenue? How does it help businesses become more energy efficient as well? And especially looking at the energy transition, how does it enable that? It is a more strategic positioning of digital technology. So without spending any more time, I will now hand over to Omar, who would like to tell us a bit more about how Brainbox is addressing this. Over to you, Omar.
Great. Thank you for the great intro. So I'm going to here share my screen. Bear with me. And there we go. Now we're going to put it into full screen mode. I think does that work? Is that full screen mode?
We have it.
All right. Perfect. So team, thank you for joining us. I see some people from all over the world. Really great to be with you all. We're going to dive into what Brainbox does, but first we wanted to talk about why we do it, right? So what is our raison d'etre? at Brainbox, it's really saving the planet with AI. That's why people come to Brainbox. A lot of the people that interview for open positions with us, that's what's driving them, is to try to apply their know-how in combating climate change. And I think this crowd is probably familiar with the challenge, right? So the truth is that global warming is upon us, and we need to stabilize the global temperature by reducing our CO2 emissions. And there are some really interesting numbers here, right? So to remain under 1.5 C, we need to peak our emissions by 2025. We need to also drop them by 43% by 2030 based on the 2019 levels. And we need to reach net zero globally in the early 2050s. So these are big challenges, societal and global challenges, as we all know. So how does this all relate to the built environment and to what Brainbox does? So starting at the top left quadrant, we're just sharing some startling information that a lot of people don't know, that buildings, the operation of buildings specifically, is responsible for 30% of global final energy consumption, of which 50%, so 50% of the 30% is HVAC, so heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. It's a startling number when you look at it at a macro scale like this. And unfortunately, 30%, this is a US figure, but one that is reproduced globally as well, 30% of a typical building's energy consumption is wasted. And that's due to many reasons that we can get into. And this is a core sort of challenge that the Brainbox technology is designed to solve. And that is, how do you get your buildings HVAC under control and operating at the most efficient level in order for you to minimize your emissions? And so at Brainbox, what we offer to the market is a partnership with our customers to accompany them on their net zero journey. So we offer a reporting module that enables our customers to report on their scope 1 and 2 emissions, and we enable them to also rank their buildings by carbon intensity. This enables them to see which building in a portfolio, let's say, needs the most work and the most upgrades. Secondly, and this is our kind of core tech, is the autonomous and continuous reduction of GHG emissions from the cloud using artificial intelligence. We're going to talk a little bit more about how that happens here in a second. And then, of course, we want to track the decarbonization process and see how the building behaves over time. So queuing here some of these videos, I'm going to start on the left. Our cloud AI platform connects to a building's control system that's controlling the heating, ventilation, air conditioning. We connect to all the major brands in the market. We're able to optimize all of the different types of HVAC equipment that one would run across. Think chillers, boilers, air handlers, rooftop units, fan coil units, and more. Our system then adds critical data in the cloud. Think weather data coming from the closest weather station to the cloud, the tariff structure of that utility that's servicing the building, the utility consumption, the grid emissions factor. All of this is added to the data set. And what the AI does is it starts to predict how will the building behave a few hours ahead of time, given today's weather forecast. Using this prediction, which is over 99% accurate, we're able to determine, so, okay, well, this zone is going to be at 25 degrees in 2 hours. Well, if my set point is 21 degrees, I don't want to go to 25 and then cool it back down. I ideally would want to stay at 21 degrees. So this predictive power of AI enables us to then take action. So what makes Brainbox unique is we actually are an autonomous system. So it actually sends a command back down to the building and will say, turn the fan on, turn the fan off, do this and do that, all in the background without disrupting the operations of the building and without impacting the comfort of the space. And this is here, illustrated in the second video, is that ability again to reach down through the tech stack to the individual HVAC units that control each zone. So this is the self-driving car for buildings. It's a self-driving building. And How does it work if I take a look under the hood? So I described some of this a little bit ago. So step one, we connect to the building's control system. We normalize the data. We create virtual meters for all of the HVAC equipment so that we understand how much energy they're consuming. And then we train the AI model. This training here then allows us in step two to do the real-time optimization that I described. So again, this is real-time sending commands to the building to make sure it's minimizing its energy consumption and minimizing its emissions as a result. And you're probably familiar with this, but for a building, scope one emissions can be the stationary combustion. So think of the natural gas being burned in a boiler to heat the building. And scope two would be the purchased energy, so that usually purchased electricity to power the fans and the compressors that provide the cooling. And our system continues learning, so it's always connected to the building and ingesting data from all of these different data sources, and we provide our customers with visibility. We also provide a continuous improvement of the optimization, so the algorithms keep learning and keep getting better. And we have a 24/7 monitoring service. These are in-house teams that are based in Australia, in Ireland, and in Canada to cover all the time zones globally, as our customers are in over 20 countries. And so what are the outcomes that we deliver? So they're material, starting from the left, up to 40% reduction in the building's carbon emissions. This clearly comes with a reduction in HVAC energy costs. So here we have a 25% reduction that we see in HVAC energy costs, and this results in a lower utility bill, whether electricity or gas or other sorts of energy bills. I want to dwell on this for a moment because it's a critical point. A lot of decarbonization efforts are CapEx heavy or require an investment in order to reduce the carbon. We're in a sort of a privileged position where our customers are being paid to reduce their carbon emissions via energy efficiency, all in an autonomous way. And we also are seeing, and this is an interesting byproduct of how the AI controls the building, up to 60% increase in tenant comfort as measured by the time that the zone spends at the desired space temperature set point. Lastly, and this is another byproduct of how the AI runs the equipment, we're running the equipment a lot less intensely, so less hours per day and less number of cycles. And this results in an extension of the expected service life of the equipment. I mentioned this just now, but our customers are all over the world. So we're in 20 countries. We started out in North America, commercializing 3 years ago, and that's why the concentration is there, but seeing rapid growth in the Middle East, Australia, Europe, and other areas. Over 70 cities as well impacted by our technology. And our last slide, we wanted to leave you with a real world example. This is a shopping mall here in Canada where we are based. So the company is based in Montreal, as that's where I'm speaking to you from. This is a shopping mall that has about 315,000 square feet that we are controlling, of a total square footage of about 509. And in square meters, you divide by 10. So it's about 50,000 square meters, so fair size property. And we are controlling this mall's HVAC equipment. So here you can see they have heat pumps and some fresh air handling units. And you can see some of the figures on the right? So we have a 21% reduction in their electricity consumption. And this is the number of kilowatt hours that were reduced last year. You see here the different runtime reductions of the various stages of heating and cooling that this piece of equipment performs. And with that, I'll hand it over back to my colleagues, and please send any questions that you have in the chat. Looking forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Amar. That was very interesting and very exciting to know the possibility and the opportunities provided by AI in this area. I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions, and as Amar said, please put them in the chat function, so we can pick them up later. Our next presenter then, we'd like to move to Ricardo. If you'd like to please share your screen, Ricardo. We'd like to hear more about your cooling as a service journey.
So just as a question, can you see the presentation?
We are on presenter mode, so we can see the other side.
Okay, let me change that. Is now okay?
Perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So as Parikshit mentioned, Daikin in Latin America, well, has got a different journey from other regions in the world. And I would like just to start with a little bit of that. So as you know, Daikin is a leader in the air conditioning industry with a long history of innovation and technological advances. So our products and technologies such as inverter technology, VRV, heat pumps, and magnetic chillers are designed to be more energy efficient and meet the specific needs of the industry. So with over 100 production bases around the world, presence in 150 countries, Daikin is a truly global company with diverse range of products and services to meet the different regions of the world. So in Latin America, we've had a journey towards providing a solution, a one-stop shop. So we did some alliances throughout the last 5 years. One is SAEG, that provides not only HVAC solutions, but also BMS solutions, fire protection, ventilation, and others related to the building. And Grupo Cifsa, that is the #1 contractor of HVAC in Mexico. So with this, let's say, acquired capabilities, we approached to our customers to complete the whole value chain of service and approach our customers directly. So in order to innovate and in order to use all these capabilities that we acquired, we knew that we didn't only needed to analyze the market in a traditional way, but we also needed an outside perspective. So we decided to invest in innovation. But in order to invest in the innovation, we needed to map the ecosystem in Latin America to identify these macro trends that can give us an idea of the problematics in the region that we needed to solve through innovation. So one of them was the rapid innovation, democratic bond, the GDP centralized in large cities, and positive aspects of the ecosystem. For example, with the rapid urban growth, the large working age population at the time, and also the concentrated economic activity. So this region has significant potential for development and growth. But on the other hand, we also have social differences, violence, informalities, and technological delay that are the negative points of the ecosystem. So these factors could hinder the development and reduce the economic opportunities and impact in the quality of life of the residents of the region. So in overall, the ecosystem in Latin America presents a mix of positive and negative aspects, which suggested us that the region has significant potential for growth and development, but also face these challenges that were meant to be addressed. So we, as a leading player in the HVAC industry, we know that we have a high impact as an industry in the sustainability and also responsibility in the development of the countries. So we are working to address these challenges in order to unlock the region's potential. So we decided to define the problematics, summarizing these macro trends in 3 problematics to solve. So #1 was, how do we contribute to the organized and sustainable growth with our technologies? Then, how do we give access to these populations to advanced technologies? And third, how do we deliver these solutions in the most efficient, but most importantly, in the most simple way to the customers? So that's how then we started mapping around the HVAC industry, that we decided to simplify it air industry, how it relates to other technology-driven industries that have been disrupted by the inclusion of technology. So we had some common points, for example, with climate tech, with circular economy, with energy tech, with blockchain, with fintech, prop tech, and contech, among others. I mean, this is just let's say our starting point, no? So then also the technologies that can be implemented in our value chain and also in our service proposals, such as augmented reality, virtual reality, the use of big data, blockchain, Internet of Things, machine learning, artificial intelligence, cloud-based solutions, also 3D printing and BIM technologies. But also after we defined or identified this operative core and then the technologies, then we also needed to identify how to implement these solutions or these technologies in a most fashion way. So that's how we identified also the key operative tools being cooling as a service as one of the main deployment of these technologies for the solutions. So also in the mapping of our value chain in the B2B business, we also have, of course, when delivering a solution, a turnkey solution to the customers, we have different stages, starting from the design of the solution, then the contracting and installation. After that, the operation of the system, the aftermarket out of the services, which includes the maintenance and parts, and also the data insights. And I would like to stop there in the first 5, because this is the traditional value chain, where this is where we used to stop, no? But once we have all the value chain integrated in one single supplier or one single player, then we also identified the necessity of providing the contracting easiness. And this is not just providing a one-stop shop, but making all the process of contracting much more faster and much more convenient. And also the other point that we identify is that how do we improve the user experience? It's not only being one single supplier and responsible, but also provide the visibility to the customer of all the benefits that this integrated value chain provides. So in each of these stages, from the design to the data insight, we identified that the inclusion of technology can provide an improved customer experience. But once we have all the value chain integrated and included these other 2 steps on the value chain, we identified that we can really provide a solution that can disrupt the market. So in that sense, for example, in the contracting easiness, the fintech integration, the scalability, and the servitization are part of the business models that we would like to integrate for providing a very better experience in the contracting side. And in the case of the user experience, the shared economies, the visualization of the IAQ, the temperature, the well-being, and also the energy savings. So once we identified this value chain and all the disruption that can be made through the inclusion of technology, then we designed our first Open Innovation Challenge that we did in alliance with the Tecnológico de Monterrey, that is the number 4 university in Latin America, but has the biggest community of entrepreneurs in the region that is called INC Monterrey. So based in all this research, we decided to implement or to establish 3 innovation axes that are the value chain improvement, the democratization of technologies and their culture, and the eco HVAC, that basically is the sustainability of the operation and the equipment itself, meaning, of course, reducing the impact indirectly through the energy consumption and the direct impact through the refrigerant. So we designed, as I mentioned, the Disruptor Challenge, which was our first innovation challenge. And some of what we expected with this challenge, number one was awareness of the brand, of course. And the second one was the new businesses that we wanted to integrate, as we know that we don't have all the answers to provide the solutions to the customers. Even though we have the customers, we may have a very biased way of looking at the market. So we decided to open the solutions for the Open Innovation Challenge, and also to find innovative talent. So just a little bit about our verticals and the statistics of the challenge. We had a total of 100 entrepreneurs involved. 70 projects registered, 6 countries, including Mexico, Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and Argentina. And we had a regional selection, which reduced this 70 projects to 35 projects. And after that, we received 20 projects in the semifinals, 8 projects in the final. I'm sorry, 20 projects in the boot camp, in which we developed their solutions and also provided consultancy to improve their value proposal. After that, we had a semifinal, which we're participating 8 projects. And finally, we had our 3 finalists that I will talk to you about in the next slide. But out of the 3 axes of innovation, we had a 47% participating on the axis of sustainability. Improving the value chain was 26%, and democratization of the HVAC industry, which is 26%. So we also have our servitization model. So Inc. Monterrey was a very good platform for us to promote a comfort loop as being our servitization proposal to us and promote it and establish it as Daikin's startup, because of its different, well, I would say that it's different business model and independent funding. So Comfort Loop became one of the solutions that was promoted through this event. So as far as the new businesses and the 3 finalists that we found in this challenge was very interesting, because 2 of them were software as a service. One of them is a crowdfunding. So SolarX was the first finalist, and they have a serviceable, obtainable market of $1.2 billion, and this represents the 2.5% of the energy generation investment. This is a crowdfunding platform that enables the implementation or the installation of cogeneration projects based on solar energy. So it has the fintech, it's a fintech that includes the blockchain technology based on a power purchase agreement. So the axis of innovation covered in this startup is the democratization of air, providing easy access in the financing part, and also sustainability. So we identified here a potential co-creation and identifying a solution that can meet not only the energy demands of a building, but also the cooling demands of a building. So bundle the both proposals under the crowdfunding scheme seems like a very interesting business potential for us. In the second place was Flare, that is a software as a service that digitalizes the indoor air quality and uses the big data to to provide, I would say, energy efficiency strategies to provide energy savings in the building management. So they control the fans, they control the air conditioning in order to provide IAQ, and also turn on and off the systems whenever it is not full by people. So this represents not only an indoor air quality improvement, but also energy savings strategies. So they have 100 million serviceable obtainable market in Latin America, and we found that they met the axis of innovation of democratization of air, providing the air culture and visibility of the indoor air quality, being the persons aware of how much it can impact their productivity, and also the sustainability because of the energy savings that they generate. So this is a solution that we see that can easily be integrated in our service proposal as a pilot project. In the case of Bono, they have a serviceable obtainable market of 2.5 million, and they're also a software as a service. They digitalize the carbon footprint digitalize the carbon footprint of the buildings, and they also help the companies to meet the ESG requirements. For example, it's now very required here in Mexico in order to obtain credits or financing from the banks to meet some ESG's goals. So they provide this solution as a software as a service, and they also have a marketplace in where they provide some options of the solutions that the companies can implement in order to reduce their carbon footprint. So here, the axis of innovation, of course, is sustainability, and we can also find some opportunities of integration in this business model. So one of the things that we learned about the innovation and our journey through this Open Innovation Challenge, which was our first in Latin America, was that open innovation creates a lot of related parties. So it's far beyond awareness, because these related parties not only create a community, but also start to develop knowledge within the integration of the different criterias and the different backgrounds of the people that gets interested in the innovation challenge. So this knowledge can really provide us as an office and as a company of business relationships that can be capitalized in future businesses. Also, these startups that join the challenge, of course, will be subject, as I mentioned, with co-creation and integration of adoption activities in the value capturing. So we found that not only awareness, but also the value creation through the new knowledge and also the value capturing are activities that are derived from an open innovation challenge, not just the participation on and the prize winning, of course, that is very interesting, but also for us as a company creates a lot of spaces that we didn't see before in order to create and capture value. So just to finalize, some of the conclusions out of this open innovation experience that we had is that cross innovation, as you saw, the operative core, the cross innovation is a tool to find quicker solution hand in hand with the integration and the co-creation. Some of these solutions, such as SolarX, for example, the winner, are not meant to, or not initially created to be HVAC solutions, but with the co-creation and the cross innovation, we can find opportunities to co-create. No, and also democratize the technology looks more like digitalization and simplifying complex technology, the visibility of the KPIs and the user experience, and as a result, the financial aspect. Sometimes when we say democratize, we think that financial part is the only part, but we identified that knowledge and visibility and awareness for the people is much more important, or comes ahead the financing part, because you will not will not be wanting to buy something if you don't know it first. So visibility provides this knowledge and easiness of understanding, and then the financial aspect comes into play. So implementation will depend also on how open and quick the organization can be when permeating the innovation culture. So with this, I finalize my presentation. Any questions I'm open to answer, and also to comment on other technologies such as our servitization scheme that we will be talking later. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ricardo. That was excellent and very interesting to see how open innovation can really enable such a large organization as Daikin to look more into different software as a service and cooling as a service models. Next, we'll go to Christian, who'll tell us a bit more about how HCL software are supporting these journeys. Christian, would you please share your slides?
There we go. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
There we go.
Would
Sorry.
you like to put it on full screen, Christian?
Yeah, I'm going to do that for you. There we go. How's that look?
It's on the presenter mode.
Oh,
there should be an option in the display settings up there. Yep. Perfect.
Oh,
there you go.
There we go. A little technical difficulties. It's not a webinar without one of those. So appreciate everybody's time. It's great to hear from some of the colleagues on the panel here with us today. So I'll take a little time here just to kind of talk about where HCL is kind of coming from our angle on the whole digitalization piece of this, right? So what we've been focused on really is sort of that piece in the service chain, right? The journey that you see from either dealing with a B2B to a B2C scenarios where people are having a product or a service that they're putting in the field that requires a little bit more of a manual uptake as far as people or personnel and processes that go along with those. And what we've kind of found in this area is around that field service piece, kind of looking in between when a service is provided or a product is provided. How do we kind of take that experience or the areas that are typically pain points for these customers, right? Which is, heavy cost, poor customer service, and things along those lines. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So we're taking a little bit different angle than some of the other ones on the call here, but we support basically everybody that's on this call. So it's really nice. So when we talk about that journey in the service world, we look at it sort of, where's that first contact resolution, right? You have a product or a service that's out there and you have a customer or a client that has an issue, right? They're calling in, they're reaching out, something along those lines that could cause those problems. So we see that first contact resolution as that key metric where people are kind of looking at their business models, right? So a lot of what you see in the market nowadays typically will result in, I didn't find the right document, the representative didn't have the information I needed. It requires a truck roll or somebody to actually come out to a physical location to fix or solve those issues. That, of course, is a very expensive cost for any company, whether they're providing the service or if they're the client on the end user piece of it, right? So we've kind of looked at that and said, hey, look, the people that are having this poor experience are definitely going to see, kind of a poor revenue, chain that's going to happen to that. And those that are being a little bit more progressive in this scenario could definitely see an increase in that revenue because you're cutting those costs down. So what we've kind of looked at is, what are those challenges that people are facing, right? Customer contact resolution, wait times, high agent turnover, which is a big problem. Tribal knowledge is a piece to that, right? A lot of these organizations may have people that are a little bit more upskilled to be able to handle these things. And if you kind of lose some of that train of thought through the process, the customers and typically in cases are going to have those issues. So what we've kind of looked at is, what does that really look like from somebody coming in, right? They're trying to find their own problems. They typically get to a level 1 support, which is somebody that's going to be able to kind of just tell them, hey, let me find the best article for you. Then they may push you over to an L2 or L3 support, which is somebody that has a little bit more of that technical upskill. That person then is maybe going to tell you, okay, hey, we're going to send a technician out, or we need to send a representative out to do that. And a lot of times they do not have all the accurate information when they come on site, which is the cost to the company because the truck comes out, the guy says, hey, I don't have what I need on the chart to actually fix this problem. Therefore, I'm going to have to come back out. All of this, which kind of just is a tumbleweed effect that's going to lead to any kind of unresolved issues, gaps in the technicians that are coming to the thing. And then, of course, anything that's on the truck is not fixing the part. All of that is a cost, but it's also a metric on that experience piece, whether it's the consumer or the end customer, right? So what we said is, hey, let's look at some of the things we have out there, right? And one of the things that we did for a large manufacturing company, they do printers, very big, large printers, not like the ones you get at Best Buy and things like that, but you actually have to have somebody come out. Many people in an office setting probably have seen these guys. Very large global footprint. They were getting tons of calls every month. Typically going to that L2, a lot of on-site escalation where people are like, hey, I can't fix this over the phone. We're going to have to send somebody out. And typically in most of those cases, they were not being effective when they went out, right? They went out to the wrong problems. They're unproductive when they get there. Hey, I don't have this on the truck. All these problems were happening. So what we went into and kind of did the same thing we showed there before is we kind of looked at those key parametrics and said, okay, where can we kind of fix these things through our AI and through our digital assistant piece of our IntelliService product. And when we did that, we automatically saw this MTTR metric of, what we look at from reduction in time that people are looking at. We saw customer call deflections, we saw upstaff, we saw mean time to resolution, all of these things improve within a 6-month time because we were able to offset a lot of this through our AI piece of the system, right? So a lot of these typical mundane kind of tasks were coming through. So we were able to address those by looking at it through our platform. So this is a good high level of what we are and where we kind of sit, right? So we're really driven by different pieces of the organization, whether it be the customer, the on-site technician, or the remote agent. and then housing all the data that we can get from these different systems, your enterprise systems, your knowledge repositories, logs, reports. We can sit anywhere pretty much on premise or off in a cloud scenario or anything along those lines. I think for today's, kind of aspect of it, it's more around that remote agent, maybe an on-site technician, and then kind of handling where that customer comes in. So a lot of that, what you can see on the right-hand column here, are some of those core pillars like cognitive, conversational AI, cognitive search, intelligent triage, predictive analytics, and telemetry data. Our AR, VR, which is more of an augmented reality kind of piece to our tool, and the fact that we're a low-code, no-code kind of platform, right? We don't require a large infrastructure or IT organization to implement us. If we're on premise, it's pretty much stand it up one time. If it's a cloud scenario, we're there to kind of help you along the way. But anybody can actually set up this system that's managing these systems from day-to-day operations. It's maybe 5 minutes a day that you might be able to go in and change and stuff. So really easy. And some of those core capabilities, and I'll kind of talk through some of those, is the conversational AI piece. Right. So typically you're going to see a lot of chatbots in the industry. You're going to see a lot of these FAQs kind of things that pop up on a screen. We've kind of taken that to the next level where we can actually do it more of a natural language style. So it's typical of a conversation you and I would have. We can do a guided experience. So you can actually set it up to where you want a customer to actually go to a certain channel. They will go that way. We can do the AR and VR kind of instructional experience as well, where we can actually say, hey, we pulled this relevant information, whether it be a ticket information, say if you're a technician or on-site person, it would actually have the documentation of the client, the part, and the process that you're there to do. And we can also escalate any of these things during the chat, right? So if a technician's on site saying, hey, I'm still having trouble, that can be escalated to actually get to a human being. And then the intelligent triage is really what sets us apart. So our system has kind of built in to where it is learning over time based on the problems that are coming about in the industry or through the technicians to help them resolve these issues on their own, right? So they do not have to go, because the system will actually look at it and say, based on the problem or the root cause, here are the recommendations, right? And it'll do the step-by-step process for them and show them, hey, did this solve the problem? If not, it may be this problem. If it's not that, then it may be this, right? All of this is to actually give a guided experience to those technicians that are on site, or even an agent on a phone that is dealing with a customer, right? Before that truck goes, they have exhausted pretty much the recommendations that have been in place that says, hey, these are the things you can do. So this really sets us apart in the sense that most other services like this would be more of a chat scenario where it's an FAQ or it's pulling a repository of documents, and then that's just regurgitated either to the technician or the client. In most cases, still leaving a lot of question marks and unresolved issues that require them to come back through the whole channel again to call through, go escalate, and then maybe a field truck service goes out. All of this is really to kind of stop that process. And then, of course, the cognitive search this is a tool that you can have a technician that's on site or somebody that's in the office trying to find that relevant documentation. We can pull from any kind of structured or unstructured data across the organization. So a lot of cases, manuals may be sitting in a paper copy. If that's ingested and put into a PDF form, we can go get it. It's on a SharePoint or a website. We can actually go to the websites and pull these things and give them to the technicians while they're there, right? All of this is to kind of give that efficiency rating to those that are on site, those that are supporting a phone call or anything along those lines. And then the other piece I mentioned here is our augmented reality. So when you think about some of these large things where a technician is on site or has to go outside and you have somebody sitting on a phone call, what better way I can have my technician that's typically in a truck sitting in an office and actually do this, right? So what we built in is AR, VR components. So a client can actually pick up their cell phone, their tablet, or whatever it is. They've gone in, they called, they started the ticket process. The agent can then live screen share with them and say, point your phone at the object, right? In this case, you can see in the picture that it's showing a large printer, right? And what it'll do is as you point that phone or that tablet at that piece of equipment, it will give you the recommended steps, right? So it will walk that agent through what to tell the customer, right? You need to remove this piece. And then once they do that, they click the next button. And then it'll tell them what to do next, and it'll tell them what to do next after that. Right. So it's all of this idea of being able to support people from a remote scenario without having a truck go out, without having a technician, which is a large cost, go out to these sites to do maybe what is just changing of a print cartridge, right? Things along those lines. So it's a really great tool, really cool differentiation for us in the market. Not too many people have these. There are AR, VR companies out there, but they're not combined with the ticketing system or the triage piece to support agents or technicians on site. Again, in this industry, and we've got several on the utility side as well in oil and gas, where you have that predictive analytics, right? How can you kind of take equipment information that's sending constant data out saying, hey, you know, the update information is not there, right? Our system can actually alert agents to let them know, like, hey, XYZ client is having this issue, and we predict or know based on what we installed that within the next, you know, 2 months, we're going to have to do a patch or an update on the system, right? So it's a lot of these things to kind of alert the consumer, but also give fair warning for staffing issues within an organization and say, hey, we will have a higher workload coming in the next month based on deployments. And then, so this one here, I'll kind of talk about this. This is one of those things. So we did it for a large refrigeration appliance company, basically, dishwashers, fridges, and all that stuff. And nowadays, with everything becoming a little bit more of a smart home kind of scenario, right? The fridges are actually being able to push data back, and they're getting data on these fridges. So when the water filter needs to be changed, or if they're having ice maker issues, all this stuff is being predictive and sending it back. So when the agent does get on a phone call with somebody and they're just calling about paying their bill or just asking you about their warranty, they can say, hey, by the way, we noticed because you bought the fridge on XYZ date that your water filter may need replacement within the next month or two, right? So it's providing that value add service also on top of this for the agents to then do an upsell or anything along those lines. And of course, the low code, no code, like I said, this is pretty straightforward stuff. Once it's in place, I am no IT savant by any means. I sell it, but I do not do it. I can do these processes on my computer. My 10-year-old and 11-year-old can probably do it as well. So it's pretty cool. You can set the flows, you can do the tracks, you can create personas, all these different scenarios for what a ticket solution may be or a service management kind of piece would be. And then, of course, that first graphic I showed you, where we really have kind of focused is saying, you know, what's that shift left, right? How can we get this more to a conversational AI, mobile app support, or that 24/7, right? Whether it be self-service or being able to give access to those things. How can we upscale or uptrain basically your L1 support to make them as good as your best agent, right? So this is being able to take a guy that's off the street and within 2 weeks, they're up to speed on everything. And they have the ability to get to all that because it's a single pane of glass for them. And then the L2s, and of course, the field service truck rolls, right, is just to reduce all of that, right? How can we make that process more efficient in the field service truck piece, right? So when we talk about the sustainability and stuff like that, that's where we really hone in on that, because if you can eliminate a lot of the steps within this service cycle of where you have customers needing you to come out, that's a reduction right there in itself from a CO2 standpoint. So I'm going to wrap up with that. But again, what we're really focused on is, you know, how can we integrate our AI through the service journey, whether you have a product, whether you have a service, whether you're an end user, whether you're a customer, is looking at how we can take that tool and integrate it with all these different data points within the organization and provide it to them. So I'm going to hold up there and I'll pass it back over so we can do our Q&A session.
Thanks a lot, Christian. That was very interesting, and especially the first figure you showed when you were taking us through a customer journey. It related very well with me because I had a very similar horrible journey recently, and it was with the fridge when it started almost cooling too much and my tomatoes were frozen, my cauliflower was gone, and contacted the shop. Shop said, not our responsibility, contact manufacturer. Contacted the manufacturer, then they say, we're sending an engineer immediately. Excellent. Engineer comes with the wrong part. Engineer is embarrassed. Second time in 2 months, the engineer comes with another part, still wrong. In the 5th month, they take away the asset. And for the 5 months, I have had lost vegetables, which is a horrible experience. And this exactly speaks to that, of how much this is customer centric. And thank you for that. We'll move to the Q&A. And just for that, I was imagining how all of these presentations fit in very well. And I was imagining a large office building, which has, let's say, for the sake of the argument, a Daikin air conditioner, a Daikin heating and cooling system. To support the Daikin system, we have Brainbox AI, which is helping the building management make decisions on when and how to use this Daikin asset, how to efficiently reach the temperatures and reduce their energy consumption. And at the same time, we have HCL Software Technologies, which is providing this solution to Daikin to support a reduction of their operational costs and make it cost efficient. And I was imagining this cartoon where all these three brilliant businesses are working together. And I can see some nodding heads from all the three presenters saying, yeah, we can see this, why you've thought of this. Now, this was a very company-specific perspective as well, and I would like to now ask Arthur to tell us a bit more about what you are seeing from the research area on a global demand of energy as a service and such business models. What would you say about that, Arthur?
No, thanks for letting me talk. Yeah, no, honestly, just thank you also for being here. It was great presentations from all the colleagues. But yeah, when we get to, I guess, your question of understanding how the markets have been moving around as a service, especially around energy and just energy efficiency, my expertise is definitely around Europe. We do have some understanding around the world extra, but my main expertise is definitely around Europe. And the main thing I can say about it is that it's definitely a little bit behind the US markets. So what I'm talking a little bit about this is, and just to give a little bit of context of kind of the flow of what we're seeing towards these energy as a service. And it really started with energy solutions, the idea that people were just looking to improve their energy, or initially, I mean, the initial way would be just you buy your assets for your business, for your home, whatever it is, and you would just own it and do whatever you had with it. When it breaks, you would go again. And then we started to see kind of these energy services come along, where you would have very much like energy service contracts, or your ESCO models come online, especially initially in the US markets, and then expanded a little bit into Europe. And I think we're at a point where the US market have kind of pushed past these into those energy as a service models. So this idea that companies are really trying to take on everything for themselves, tell the customers, hey, you do not need to worry about anything. We will do everything, trying to simplify the contracts, simplify pretty much the interaction with the customers so that they don't really have to worry too much, and just, deal with it themselves. Europe is starting that transition, I think. We are seeing a little bit more like as a service solutions arrive. But this idea of full energy as a service, where you're just pretty much telling them, we will like just do everything for you, has not really like passed the bar yet, I think. Some of the issues with that is that, and I think was brought very well with Ricardo at Daikin, which was around the idea of visibility and knowledge from the customer. One of the big issues we've been seeing in Europe is that customers are a little bit unsure about these solutions. I mean, I think some of them just think, oh, that's too good, there's a catch, because they're like, they don't have to do any upfront cost, they don't have to do anything, and they just like, people take it care for them. So there has been a little bit of like, what's the catch? Like, what are you trying to sell me? And so we have been seeing a lot of effort in Europe, especially around actually just teaching customers, trying to push the solution a little bit on them, but actually just teach them about it. And once that happens, we are seeing a little bit of growth. That has changed a little bit in the past year, especially. I assume everyone knows a little bit the situation of energy in Europe. We've been having a big energy crisis. So like energy prices have been really high, and that has kind of helped customers take that first step, start to think a little bit more about the energy consumption, while before it was a little bit more of just suppliers coming to them. So there is a little bit of shift, but we are seeing kind of the market growing at this point. In terms of, I guess I can add a little bit around digitalization as well, because I've really talked a little bit about just energy solutions in general, but then a little bit around the digitalization tools and how they're helping that come forward. The main two things we've been seeing around digital tools for helping kind of the solution grow has been kind of firstly in the front end. So this idea of actually getting the customer on board. And I think Christian, like your example was perfect with HCL of just, it can take months to get even a solution up front, actually trying to get them on board, design the solution, trying to understand what needs to be done, and then on top of that, just executing the plan of getting a solution well installed. And that's both for the B2B and B2C market. I think just for B2C, what we've been seeing is that 60% of all renovations in Europe are a fail, and they need to bring somebody back to actually redo the renovation. So like these types of things that are kind of like a lot of cost and just give a bad rap to these kind of solutions. And so there's a big part of actually using digital tools to just simplify this part and make it a lot better. And then the second part, which I guess Omar with Brainbox show a great example, is around just the optimization and monitoring of the solution to make sure that in the long run, they just work well, costs for the company is reduced as much as possible, they can create as much savings and make money off the solution. Because if you're taking on the risk yourselves, you need to make sure that you can actually deliver and make money for yourself.
Thanks a lot, Arthur. Very insightful. And yeah, we see the same from our work. As you know, I said, we are headquartered in the UK, but we work globally, heavily in Europe, and we see similar trends. While we gather more questions from the audience, I had a question for all of our panel. And I'll start with you, Omar, and I'll open it up to Christian and Ricardo as well. So the question is that we accept and understand that digital technology is a key enabler in these as-a-service models. Your solutions can enable these Brainbox's solutions can enable the equipment providers as a service model as well, very well. Now, the question arises very often from the equipment provider side is, do we make it or do we partner with somebody else to do it faster? Product-centric businesses are very proud of their pedigree and they want to do everything themselves. They don't want to let that go, also because of data privacy and other issues. So how do you see that working out? You have partnered with many businesses in this, and I think the word partner means a lot in this context as well. So what is your opinion on that?
It's a great question. So we'll try to tackle it from a few different angles. So from the Brainbox perspective, we think that it takes a community of people and companies and providers to service, you know, this market, right? So whether it's on the HVAC equipment side, the control system side, the maintenance side, etc. So it's not just kind of Brainbox is the answer to world hunger, right? And we put that into our go-to-market strategy. So we have national accounts that are direct to end user. We also have resellers that resell our solution locally, typically in a certain city or geography. And then we also have what we call our OEM accounts. So these are companies like the Daikins of the world that either make HVAC equipment, HVAC control systems, or both. Some of the ones that are publicly announced are like ABB and KMC controls, and amongst others. And so the goal here is to enable our OEM partners to private label our solution under their own brand and use their own existing relationships and go-to-market strategies and channels, and maybe even enhance the offering with other features and maybe bundle with services that they provide to deliver to their end market and their end users. So we actually do that as a core kind of go-to-market path. I think the question that you asked is interesting from a general sense, which is, you know, the build, buy, or partner. So if I'm a large multinational, I have to look at it this way, right? And it's probably going to come down from what we're seeing to, well, what's the cost of building it internally, the time to market that it's going to take me, and what opportunity cost does it involve if I spend 2 years developing this thing and these guys are racing to the finish line. So there are considerations like this that come to mind. And usually it relates to that equation. So what we see is, at least in our case, you know, we're 160 people dedicated full-time to this specific application in the HVAC world. And replicating this is not trivial, right? So what tends to happen is people will look and say, okay, well, if I'm going to attempt to do this, it's going to take me X years, X people, X dollars. Let's try to partner and see how we can kind of do kind of more together. I'll pass the mic back to you.
Thanks, Omar. That's very interesting. Ricardo, coming to you. Christian, I'll come back to you after Ricardo. Looking at Daikin's and the presentation you gave, there were these two new startups which were around this software as a service angle. Is that the intention? To look at creating these softwares internally, but using external capability and merge that into the business. How do you see this balance working?
Yeah, well, from the Daikin's perspective, it's more like a mix. We have, for example, for Conforloop, which is our servitization model, we have a platform for the connectivity and the building management system that is called Pilot that we developed internally. No? But we see that sometimes integrating different companies in a single group, it becomes challenging. And this is something that is very, very well aware among the mergers and acquisitions world. So whenever the solution is provided to the customer, we need to take care of how seamless the solution can be presented. Sometimes it's better to use internal sources, and sometimes it's better to partner with someone else that maybe is providing a more simpler solution that is not as complex as the one we offer, but has a lot more punch in the market. For example, you mentioned the Flare and the software as a service that the startups that we selected as a third and second place. They have very simple solutions that can be more, let's say, more appealing to the customers in order to, for example, in order to migrate to more efficient solutions. For example, the IAQ has the IAQ solution has a relationship with the productivity. So that kind of studies we do in Daikin in Japan, but are undergoing studies. But these guys are already implemented the solution. So in order to provide, I mean, customer centricity is the key. So if we find integration opportunities, we do, and also development internally, we do. Of course, it's through our, let's say, integrated companies that we do this internal developments, not really Daikin itself, no, because of the expertise that these companies need to have. So I would say that that's my answer. I don't know if it's complete for you.
No, it is. Yeah, I think it demonstrates that it is a mix, as you said, of options available. And considering the size of Daikin, of course, that makes a lot of sense. It's not a one-stop shop for such solutions. Christian, drawing back on your presentation as well, you showed how there's the no-code development on the solutions that you have. Is that a way to make this lucrative for OEMs, that they don't have to spend time developing everything from scratch? It is much easier. As you said, your 10-year-old could do it. What would you say on this build, buy, or make option?
Sorry, having to unmute myself. Yeah, so I mean, if you look at the perspective from HCLTech, right, we're the 800-pound gorilla in front of an E&D business model, right? So our business model and core to us is really how we support other companies, right? And that's really where HCLTech kind of got its footing, right? So we took that kind of building of apps, building of engineered services for customers, and kept that in mind as we created this IP, right? So our product is our HCL software IP. It's not a joint partner or anything along those lines. But by doing that, we've made it to where it can easily partner with any of our different OEMs, any of our partner channels. We can do it across platforms within the HCL ecosystem. So a lot of times what you see happening on an HCLTech side, which is a little bit more around engineering, app development, infrastructure, telecom, big heavy lift kind of hardware scenarios, we can apply that as well, right? So that in its sense is, you know, we didn't build a business model around how the infrastructure piece of it is. It was more driven around sort of the outcome of what our tool does. So we didn't really kind of look at it from a perspective of, you know, how can this cost affect us? But it is a differentiator in the market, right? Where a lot of other OEMs, end users, clients, right? It goes back to the conversation of how many people do I need to build this? Does it make sense to go build it with somebody else? And how long does that time take, right? And then how do you match that? So by coming in with a low code, no code kind of scenario, with multiple ways to deploy that, right? Whether it be on premise or in the cloud or even through a partner channel, right? So we come from a service side of the business, so we can integrate with the ServiceNows of the world, the Salesforce, the Microsofts, all these different communications that people use. We can plug and play because they're already in our partner ecosystem with HCL, right? So pretty simplistic in that scenario, but it also gives a differentiator that a company that, you know, you can, we always say it's ROI on day one, not day of one, right? So literally when you turn it on, the work that goes in maybe 2 to 3 weeks ahead of that to do all the API calls, layering of the ingesting of the data to create the AI. It's pretty much, as soon as you get that, everything is going to drop down for the people to go and click, say, I want to answer this question, I want to answer that question, I need it to go here, I need it to go here. Done.
Thank you, Christian. An interesting question that has come from somebody in the audience is that these energy efficiency projects are very expensive. And Arthur, I'll start with you on this, if I can, as an answer. So the energy efficiency projects are quite expensive. They need a lot of infrastructure to start off as well. All of this puts in a lot of CapEx, whether it's a consumer or a business. Do these X as a service business models, for example, how Daikin are doing it as well, build, own, operate in a way, how do these enable or make these affordable? Should the focus be affordability, or should the focus be reduction of carbon emissions and decarbonization? How do businesses hit this balance? Any opinion on that, Arthur?
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of affordability, I guess, and so when you go and look like at energy as a service solutions, the idea is like, well, your question is like, who's going to pay for it? Generally, it's, and who can actually offer those types of, I guess, credit security that they can pay for large CapEx to install stuff. And so in a way, generally, yes, the idea is these solutions will enable kind of push or like move away from having the company itself, for example, like, I don't know, a bakery or something that doesn't really want to spend any capital expenditure and put it on a larger entity. So for example, it could be a bank. We're seeing, especially banks in Europe, having very large green finance targets that they need to start putting into place by 2030. So they need to have their, I mean, they're looking for investments. There's a wall of money that's coming and they want to spend that money on something. So there's definitely plays around that where energy efficiencies, similarly with energy suppliers, like large energy suppliers are looking to, have more visibility on the energy consumption of their consumers. So they're always like interested in those measures themselves. So there is definitely that they do bring a lot more of that affordability. The issue with them is then you're putting the risk of relying on another player that owns your system, right? So that's where kind of like these old contracts around guarantees for 20 years started to happier. And we are seeing kind of, as you move away from these like guarantees themselves, because the idea is if you want to simplify your contracts, simplify everything, you kind of need to find new ways to do it and pay as you go models. But there's definitely like new, I guess, contracts that need to be thought of. But around the affordability themselves, we are seeing them. That's kind of like if you need new assets and otherwise. There's already a lot that can be done with the existing assets. If you start to actually just, and the first step is generally always around improving the efficiency of your current assets. So if you start to just add sensors, add infrastructures to actually connect your devices and actually talk to them, then you don't actually need to maybe replace all the assets that you have. And so that's generally the first, that's the first step really. And that can generally take you far enough that you are gonna see some savings. And that's definitely where I think a lot of current projects are. Like you're not looking to create a net zero building with like right now, I think, or most businesses are not really looking to create a net zero business right now. They're looking to reduce their emission by 60% or something like that. And with that, the finance is already less of an issue than if you're looking to get to those net zero. So if that answers the question.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Arthur. And I'll open the question to the panel as well. How do you see it? Anybody feel free to chip in. How do you see this balance between make it affordable or make it energy efficient? Because they might not go hand in hand all the time. Anybody wants to give an insight?
I would like to maybe give an approach on the Latin American market. Over here, what we've seen with our servitization scheme is that always, I mean, money talks. No, here in Latin America, it's more about the affordability. Currently, there are some countries such as Colombia and Chile that are implementing by government some tax incentives for the migration to more efficient technologies and also more efficient refrigerants. And those are being the ones that are being very appealing for the customers, because they can get, for example, accelerate the depreciation of the asset in a 50% from the start. And they also can get, they don't get charged with the VAT. They can also apply some benefits to the IR declaration. So it's very interesting for them on the financial part. So we executed like a sort of very simple mathematical example, and we arrived to around a 25 to 30% in the saving of the price that the customers can get with these tax incentives. So that becomes, let's say, a very good market opportunity in Colombia, for example. Here in Mexico, we have seen that the customers are also needing for a little bit of education. As Arthur mentioned, they always seem to think that there's a catch behind it. So we have invested a little bit in the, because normally the solutions and the design of the solutions need some previous study about the capabilities that they need, or the tonnage that they will be needing to cool their systems. So what we have done is that since CIFSA, it's an integrated company, has their own design department with more than 50 years history. So what we did was to put all these designs that we have in the history into a system that allows us to estimate the tonnage per the square meters. So it's simpler for us, and also about the location, we can determine how much, and the hours of operation, we can determine how much the maintenance and operation would cost. So with all this historic information, we have a system that provides an estimated fee for the servitization. So it's easier for the customer to see the economic benefit from the first hand. No, of course, when we actually sell the solution, we need to perform some studies that will come with a design study, but it provides a simpler way to see the economic impact for them. So and also a simulator of energy efficiencies based on automation routines that allows the customer to see the benefits of the automation and the operation in their energy bill. So at the end, it becomes a very affordable and economic proposal for them, more than on the carbon footprint or sustainability. It's that's our experience here in Latin America.
Very interesting. So money talks, but there's always the byproduct of environmental sustainability. Omar, you wanted to add anything?
Yeah, I think what the colleagues said are spot on. I think it depends on who's asking. Essentially, there are different needs for different end users in different parts of the world. And there are solutions. That's the good news. That there are solutions for each of these different needs. So if the need is, for example, to finance a project, there are answers and people that do that very well. If there's a need for insurance, etc. So from our perspective, what we see is those companies that are focused on either cost reduction, decarbonization, or both, can benefit from energy efficiency as the lowest hanging fruit in the stack of solutions that one could tackle in a building. And that's essentially, you get that positive cost of decarbonization. You get paid via the reduction in your utility costs. So you don't have to choose between being green at least in the energy efficiency context, if it's priced properly, between being green and being cost effective, you can have both. And there are solutions, for example, on the LED lighting side, where this is well understood, right? LED lighting can drop your electricity consumption significantly, but you need to finance the capex for it. And so having some sort of a financing scheme that gives net positive cash flow to the user is possible.
Thanks a lot, Amar. I'm conscious of time, and I think we have overrun. So Christian, if you don't have anything to add on this, I'll pass it back to Dimitris. And from my side, I'll thank all the speakers for their excellent contributions. It was really interesting to listen to you all. Dimitris?
Yes, many thanks, Parikshit. And I also take the opportunity to thank all of you for the very valuable inputs and for taking the time today to share your expertise, your work on the ground, and how you see the market evolving and what is valuable to be done on the ground. So I take the opportunity just also to share a few words. Let me just share the screen here. Oops. So for the audience that is still online, many thanks for joining this morning as well from wherever you were on the globe. And if you have any questions related to the SET Alliance, to the work that the Alliance is doing, and to the program coming up forward, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. So we will be organizing different sessions like the ones you've seen today throughout the year, some a little bit more technical, some a little bit more legal, and some a little bit more focused on the business side. And if you have any suggestions as well as an audience on where you see it would be valuable to have more information on as-a-service models, please don't hesitate to reach out. And on this, I would like to thank everyone and to close the session.
Thank you all.